Hi, I'm Pierre from the Wine Society, Director of Wine, and I'm joined by Catherine, our events manager, and we're here today to walk through, to taste through the classic Reds taster kits, which are these fantastic kits that I am really excited about that we have available for members of the Wine Society. And I think it's a great way to just really shortcut members to discover new wines. Today focusing on classic red wines. So we've got some big hitting regions that are being represented. And I guess as you're watching this and tasting this, you might be approaching this in probably one of three ways. You might be someone who loves exploring the world of wine and looking for your next adventure. Or you might be simply looking to really get a load of pleasure out of trying and drinking different wines, having a bit of fun with your friends and family at the same time. Or you might be a bit more serious and you're looking to really fine-tune your mastery of tasting wines and enjoying wines.
Wine 1 is a Crozes-Hermitage from Domaine Pochon. It's 100% Syrah, and it's got some really lovely red fruits in there. It's quite ripe. You're edging into the sort of more squishy red fruits, so your wild raspberries, wild strawberries. But being 100% Syrah, it does still have that lovely, slightly spicy, peppery kick to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, and the colour of it is extraordinary, isn't it? Which is absolutely. Classic of Crozes-Hermitage.
Etienne, who makes the wine, really focuses on letting the fruit display its own character. So it's got that purity to it. It's 100% hand harvested. It's got a real delicacy while still having a nice bit of structure as well. The Crozes-Hermitage is the largest appellation in Northern Rhône. And like its big brother, Hermitage, it does show wines that are really high quality. There is finesse, there is delicacy. But the Crozes-Hermitage are slightly more fruit forward. They're a little bit more approachable in style. So this one actually would also be really nice if you were to chill it, if you're enjoying it in the summer. Great with any sort of grilled meats, grilled vegetables. It's a very food-friendly wine. It's got enough acidity to be quite palate cleansing, but the fruits and the flavors are really concentrated as well.
It's got incredibly good power, and yet it's not massively alcoholic either, which is really quite expressive of the sort of talent of this domain, getting that extra concentration without too much power and that lovely balance overall. It's a really good example of sort of classic Northern Rhône Syrah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got enough power and delicacy to be really pleasant however you would like to drink it, whether it is with food, whether it's just a glass of an evening. It's a really nice wine to start with.
So wine 2 is Nuits-Saint-Georges from Domaine Chauvenet. We are in another great classic wine region of France. We've gone from the Rhône to Burgundy. Burgundy is by far the sacred home of Pinot Noir. The trickiest grape variety to get absolutely right, but when it's right, it can take you to another world. We are in a very tiny appellation within Burgundy called Nuits-Saint-Georges, which actually in the context of Burgundy makes a more powerful, more structured style. But in fact, when you compare this wine to the Crozes-Hermitage, this is a much more subtle, more refined wine. And actually what I will do quickly here is just a very quick tip on how to get the most out of a wine. When you're tasting a wine, the first thing to do is to tilt the wine so you can see the colour and the concentration. And you would have noticed, if you've still got some of the first wine, that this is a lighter colour. The second thing to do is swirl the wine. It opens up the aroma so you can get all the flavours. If you're struggling to do that, put your glass on the table. It's much easier to do that. Take a big whiff of it. You'll get all the complexity that this wine offers. And then on the palate, just wish it round your palate because you sense all sorts of different elements of the wine on your palate. bitterness, sweetness, fruit concentration. Having said all that, the most important thing you should ask yourself when you try a wine is, do I like it or not?
Absolutely.
I love this wine. It's got so much complexity. It's a more savoury kind of fruit profile, and it's not about power and concentration. It's sort of understated in its intensity, quite restrained, quite graceful. Lots going on here. Really, really important with this wine is never to serve a Pinot Noir too warm. Don't serve it at room temperature. It's really good to put a wine like this into the fridge for about half an hour so it just slightly chills it, then serve it. Showing well though, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's got that real elegance to it without having too much austerity as well, which you can find in some areas of Burgundy, but it's got the perfume and the nice bit of texture. And absolutely, I would give it a little chill because it just helps those fresh, bright red fruit flavours come through. The perfumability is just a bit more present.
Great.
With wine 3, we're now heading into Bordeaux with the Château Cissac Haut-Médoc. So being from the Médoc, we are predominantly looking at Cabernet Sauvignon as the dominant grape. There is also a little bit of Malbec in this blend as well, which adds a little bit more fleshy ripeness to the wine. So you've got a lot of structure from the Cabernet Sauvignon. Fruit-wise, you've got red fruits and some of your more stronger black fruits. It's very powerful on the nose. I think as well on the palate, the structure and firmness of the tannins really do come through.
Which is very typical of a wine from the left bank, the Médoc in Bordeaux, which has this incredible punch and sort of velvety structure, muscular, often the wines are described as.
And because you are on the left bank, you're got those more gravelly soils, so you are getting a little bit more of the structure and the firmness in the wine. Château Cissac are consistent in their quality. They really make fragrant and firm styles of Haut-Médoc. In terms of the benefits of having that structure, this is a great wine if you wanted to leave it a little bit longer. Another 2-3 years, definitely it will start coming into more of its own, taking on some more tertiary characters. The fruit will dry down, maybe into slightly more of a figgy balsamic quality.
Absolutely, and I think for me this wine is just showing really well. It's lovely and polished and absolutely has so much further potential to age, and I think if you're enjoying this wine as it is today, great. If you're finding the wine has maybe too much structure, because it's got a lot of structure, actually that structure is what gives this wine its lifeline. And, you know, this is going to age really easily to beyond 2030, and it's under £20 a bottle.
Yeah.
You know, this is a
It's
fine
exceptional
wine
value.
at under £20, and it's going to age and improve in bottle. I think it's showing really well.
And if you do want to approach it now, but it is still that little bit firmer, pop it through a decanter or even into a jug, back into the bottle, just to let a little bit of air come to it so it softens up slightly and it's a little bit more approachable.
Our fourth wine, we are moving over to Italy and to a really key wine region in Italy, which is Chianti. Produces brilliant wines at every price point, from sort of inexpensive right up to top fine wines. This excellent one called Poggiotondo comes from the Antonini family. Second generation Alberto is the current winemaker, a really, really thoughtful winemaker. This is a very historic estate, only uses local grape varieties. So this is predominantly the Sangiovese grape variety, which produces wines that have a lovely kind of floral, cherry, almost sour cherry character. The really noticeable thing that makes Chianti stand out, when you taste it, these wines have really crisp, bright, vibrant acidity levels. And that acidity works so well with Italian dishes, particularly tomato-based dishes. Tomato-based food is actually the hardest to match red wine to. but Chianti works superbly well. My second tip for this video is how to look like a professional wine taster. Okay, use it's called the Blick principle. Balance, length, intensity, complexity. Anytime you taste a wine or try a wine, if you want to look like you really know your stuff, you simply try the wine and say, this wine has excellent balance, it's got really good length, the intensity is quite rich, and it's got complex flavours of blueberries and cherry fruit. You really sound like a master. But I think this is a lovely wine, isn't it? Showing
Absolutely.
really well.
And I really love that savoury edge to it.
Yes.
It's a little bit tomato leafy, a little bit smoky as well, which it just means it smells like I really want a big bowl of tomatoey pasta, because it's just going to be so good with food.
It will be. Cheers.
With wine 5, we're staying in Italy. We've got a Barolo by Silvano Bolmida. It's Nebbiolo, so similar to the Chianti with the Sangiovese grape. It's very perfumed, very pretty, but it's got a little bit more of a spicy, savoury note to it. Silvano grows his vines at around 470 metres elevation. So that elevation does mean that the acidity retains while the grapes are ripening. So you've got that lovely freshness to the wine as well. He puts them under a quite long, gentle maceration, and then there is a little bit of barrel age as well. So it just helps with a little bit of micro-oxygenation. It softens out the tannins without imparting too much of an oak flavour, but just helps it become a little bit blended and complex and balanced.
And this is a 7-year-old wine, and actually you can start to see here's the first wine that we've had where you can really see the impact of age on the colour of the wine. So the rim is slightly sort of mahogany, turning into a brick red colour, which is what happens with age. I think this has got the sort of classic rose petal and tar aromas
absolutely.
that we in the industry, when we're taught about tasting wines and what Nebbiolo's distinct character is, it's really classic in that respect.
Yeah, savoury perfume I think is the ultimate descriptor for a Nebbiolo. It's slightly leathery, a little bit balsamic. You're getting almost a slightly kind of balsamic raspberry vinaigrette vibe to it.
And the other thing that makes this wine stand out is it's fleshy, but actually if you notice when you've swallowed the wine or spat the wine out, this has really high levels of that bitterness, that tannin. Again, very typical of Nebbiolo. And just really marks this out. I mean, this is one of the truly great wines of the world, and Barolo is becoming, members of the Wine Society have been buying more and more Barolo over the last few years. It's become immensely popular. I think this is showing well.
Yeah, and even with the age it's got already, you're still looking at being able to have it for a little longer as well, because it does have that structure and that complexity and intensity there.
So our last wine, wine 6, we are in Spain and in Rioja, a name that probably doesn't need a huge amount of introduction to most wine drinkers. This comes from the Muga family, and it is one of my favourite, I'll just put it out there, one of my favourite wines in our range. The Muga family have incredible attention to detail. So not only do they own some of the best vineyards in Rioja, have some of their winemaker is one of the members of the family too, very talented winemaker. They actually make their own oak barrels to age the wine in. And in fact, this is the first wine of this taster kit where you start to see the influence of oak on the wine. So when you take a sniff of this, if you look for sort of, it's got a kind of like creamy, slightly toasty character. That's come from the new oak that has been used in this wine, a mixture of French and American oak. It is a classic blend, which means it's mostly the Tempranillo grape variety with a little bit of Graffiano and Mazzuelo. And it's just a lovely wine. It's got power, it's got concentration, it's got incredible length too. Very, very deep in colour. And if you keep going back, the flavours are changing. Rioja ages incredibly well. This vintage that's in the taster pack is the new current vintage. But Muga sort of have this amazing knack of being able to make Rioja that tastes beautiful when it's young and fruity, but also can age for 10, 20 years, where it'll become much more savoury, more graceful, and much more mellow.
Yeah, I mean, it's got that structure, but it's got a really lovely plushness to it as well, with that concentration of the fruit. And like you said, that slight spicy, it's like a true vanilla, maybe a little bit of this sort of nutmeggy, warm baking spice coming through from the oak. It's really got a lot going for it. It's a bit of everything in this wine.
Absolutely, and I think it's just, for me, the word exotic is kind of what sort of summarises this whole wine. But that brings us to the end of this tasting kit session. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope you might have learnt something along the way. All of the wines that are featured in the tasting kit are available on the Wine Society's website, and actually we've got other tasting kits too, if you wanted to further your discovery, further your knowledge around wine. But I hope you enjoyed it.